It's always fun, right when you're about ready to press play, and you think this is going to be like a normal episode, but then Mary Beth says something, and it makes it sound like it's going to be a spicy one in some cases.
It's me this time. I'm the problem. It's me.
It's not me for once. Welcome back to Little Cuts, our 100th episode? Question mark?
What?
I don't feel like we've been doing this that long enough to have 100 Little Cuts, but here we are. It's a weekly minisode where we dig into things that we've been watching, I think just watching recently. I don't know anymore. I'm Terry.
I'm Mary Beth, and this week we're talking a queer erotic thriller, sex rooms, a folklore disaster epic, and queer serial killers in love. A lot of gay.
We sure are.
I love the gay energy of this episode already.
There's a lot of gay energy in this one.
Not that this podcast doesn't always have gay energy, but
what you talking about? I'm straight as can be.
As man licks armpit in background.
Don't pay attention to that. Don't worry about
that. Okay.
It's a very manly man. He is pumping iron raw.
I've deceased.
He's sweaty. He has no towel. What are you gonna do?
True. You gotta just lick yourself
lick it off.
Like a cat. This is disgusting.
I don't know how demons operate.
This is disgusting. I'm so sorry. No. Oh. Anyway, queer erotic thriller. Did they lick each other like cats and groom each other?
No, but it would have been more interesting, I think, if they did. Not to say this isn't interesting. That sounded like this is not it. This is very interesting. No, this is actually very interesting. And it's by friends of the show. So back in, was it 2020? We had Joshua Tonks on, and he talked about Scream. And I love him. He has a wonderful voice. He's very nice. He's very smart. We share inappropriate gifts sometimes with each other.
That's love.
Yeah, it is. And he was in a short film called The Latent Image, directed by Alexander McGregor Burrell. And back then, he had said that, they had intentions of making The Latent Image, the movie that he was in, or the short film that he was in, into a feature film. Cut forward to 2022. And here we are. The Latent Image just premiered at Soho Film Festival in the UK. And it had some other people attached to it that, we know. For instance, Brendan Haley, who runs June Gloom Productions. I believe he runs June Gloom Productions. And he also designed my current website's Gaily Dreadful's icon and stuff. And it's also produced by Michael Verratti, previous guest of the show,
sweet
one of my favorite people on Twitter. Love him. And it takes the idea from the short film and extends it into a feature-length film, and it's about a thriller writer who goes to an isolated cabin to write. As he starts writing, he's like having writer's block, and then all of a sudden the words start flowing. And as he starts to write, the things in his book are starting to take place in the real world. It seems like a mysterious man shows up in a car. He enters into the house. There's a little bit of like menace. Is this sexual energy? Is it danger? Mm-hmm. It kind of plays with that sort of motif of inherent possibility of violence whenever there are two men involved, where you're not quite sure what the sexualities of the other person, and they start to create this sort of like very uneasy dialogue about what his name's not Josh. I just think of him as Josh because he is Josh. What Ben, the writer, has been writing, and it sort of unfolds from there. The script, the story by Joshua Tonks and also Alexander Burrell, sort of takes the kernel that was in the short film and adds a lot more complexity and layers to it. And it's a lot of fun. And it was really kind of cool to see a queer-themed erotic thriller, because I think we need more of those.
Yes, I can't wait to watch it. Where did you watch it? Is it streaming? Oh, Soho.
No, it just premiered at
You
Soho.
said that, and my brain forgot it. I'm sorry. I swear I'm paying attention. I'm traveling
So
tomorrow.
it'll probably, yeah. We're trying to get this done before, Thanksgiving. But oh, we have people in
Yeah, it's
chat. I didn't
Al's
realize.
in here. Yeah.
Terry did say he was a straight man, white man once. I did say that. That is my secret, my secret shame. Uh, but yeah, no, this is good. I think it'll be playing at other festivals hopefully soon. So I hope more people will be able to see it because I had a good time with it.
Cool. I'm so excited to see it. Because, again, friends,
Yeah,
but also queer erotic thrillers. And we've done erotic thrillers on Little Cuts, so we want more queer ones. Because a lot of I think almost all of the ones we did were incredibly straight.
yeah,
They
most of
are.
them. I mean,
Oh,
Bound.
we did Bound, and then we did Stranger by the Lake.
Oh, Stranger by the Lake.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, okay.
But most of them
There's
are pretty
straight.
heteronormative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very heteronormative.
But yeah, so I love to see people that I care about and love do great things and succeed. So
Same.
check it out if it's playing at a festival near you at some point.
Yeah.
But let's continue with, gosh, we have like a theme going. Let's continue with the sex and talk about sex rooms.
Okay, so this is a silly one. I haven't had a lot of time to watch a lot of movies, but something I did binge watch it's not horror at all, but it is I want that old fashioned. It is a new series on Netflix. Oh, that looks so good. I can just. Anyway, sorry, distracted by the delicious drink. I
My roommate makes great old fashions. Sorry.
Queen. Love it. But so I, with Steve and our best friends, we binge watched How to Build a Sex Room on Netflix.
Okay.
And it is the most charming, delightful thing I've ever watched. And so,
Is
you
it?
go into a show called How to Build a Sex Room with, some preconceived notions of what that's going to entail.
Mhm.
And it's actually incredibly sex positive and very much embraces queerness and polyamory and all different kinds of sexualities. And the woman who hosted, her name is Melanie Rose. She is like probably in her 50s or 60s, British white woman with with a pixie cut, super colorful personality. And she is an interior designer, but when a client asked her to design a sex room, she actually ended up making it one of her specialties is designing rooms for sex, for couples. And so each episode is dealing with a different couple with different needs. And so like we have a lot of straight couples, but we also have a couple with a non-binary person and a cis woman.
Ooh.
We have a couple who are part of it's a polycule of 7 people, and she's building a sex room for them to all be able to have group sex comfortably.
Oh, so is each like episode a different
Sort of. So they all,
couple or
yeah.
different
So it's like
situation?
they
or-
usually overlap because there's 8 episodes and it's one
Okay.
couple per episode. They usually will do one couple and introduce a second one, and that'll go in like the second half of that second couple will go into the first
Okay.
one. So they overlap a
A little
little
bit like
bit.
Alias.
Yeah. And there's also a segment of
The Alias of sex rooms. Sorry.
yep. And then there's actually, even at the end, a woman who does not have a partner but wants a room where she can actually experience orgasm for the first time and like learn how to pleasure herself after being in a marriage for over 20 years and never having achieved orgasm. So it's not like, it's obviously sensationally marketed in names, but it's actually an incredibly like thoughtful show about sex positivity and the importance of sex in relationships and the importance of embracing everyone's sexual desires and like breaking down taboos. And it's a lot of this work in the show does a lot about destigmatizing like BDSM and what BDSM means and what kink means, and kind of breaking down in more simple terms what kink is, and people realizing, oh, you're not beating the shit out of me. Like getting spanked does not mean pain necessarily. And there's a lot of really interesting, like, couples that seem very uncomfortable with this at first being introduced to these concepts in a way that they can understand, a little bit gentler. And it's really good. Like, it's a Netflix home improvement show, so, like, it's not changing the world or anything, but it's, like, it was surprisingly fun and like not it obviously leans into like this like they do close-ups of them pouring white paint onto stuff and dripping. Like they know what they're doing, but the host of the show is incredibly kind and empathetic and is like, "Oh, I've never made a room for a polycule before. Let's fucking go." And she's like, she meets with each of them individually to figure out what each of their sexual needs are, and and like their room caters to everyone's individual sexual desires, and like, it's neat. It's neat.
That's cool.
I liked it a lot. It's a fun show to watch and like be surprised by. It's got like Queer Eye energy, but less like yes queen. Sorry, Jonathan. But it's got like kind of those wholesome vibes of someone coming in and like changing a perspective on sex in a positive way.
Oh yeah.
So it's fun. It's on Netflix, 8 episodes. Melanie Rose is my queen and I love her. And yeah, and it's not heteronormative. There's a gay couple, there's a gay couple, there's a lesbian couple, there's a there's a trans couple, like, and it's not just white. Like they did a good job casting because it doesn't feel like heteronormative white people in suburbia. Like it's a pretty broad spectrum of ages, genders, race, socioeconomic background. That was the word. I was just like, what is this word? So yeah, it's not horror, but it's fun. So if you're looking for something that's kind of fun and you're okay with watching, it's like, and it's very sex forward. So if you're comfortable with that, it's fun on Netflix.
Cool.
So, I know.
I will add that to my list. Like I kept side-eyeing it like,
oh, 100%. I was side-eyeing it too, but then one of our other friends told our best friend, this woman who hosted is just like you when you grow up, and I want you to build sex rooms. And I was like, okay, well, that's a funny endorsement. And we watched it, and this woman is exactly like my best friend. The officiant at my wedding, Terry. And what she is like as a person. So we were like, skeptical, but once you get into it, you're like, okay, never mind. This actually is quite fun. So
awesome.
That's that.
I'm glad to hear that.
Let's go into the other end of the spectrum with a folklore disaster epic.
So I really thought I was only going to have the queer erotic thriller, The Latent Image, to talk about. And then yesterday, after we had a marathon recording for Mary Beth and myself, I got a screener from Netflix for a movie I've been very, very excited for. It's called Troll.
Oh, shit!
It's directed by Roar Uthaug. I'm not sure if I pronounced his name correctly. He, you might remember me talking about one of the movies that he directed, because he did the first movie in the Norwegian disaster kind of trilogy,
oh, yeah.
The Wave, The Quake, and then The Burning Sea. He directed The Wave.
Oh.
And then he would go on to do Tomb Raider.
Oh, the Alicia Vikander one?
The 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he's coming back. This is another Norwegian film. It's about, it follows the same kind of themes, I would say, as The Wave, in terms of like ecological disasters that are being caused a lot by man, where we have like the Norwegian government is trying to create a tunnel through Dovre, and by doing so awaken a giant troll that has been sleeping there, because like trolls in Norway, have a very rich folkloric history. And so we follow this movie. I would say takes a little bit, so it's a little bit of Jurassic Park influenced. It's a little bit of King Kong, like Skull Island in particular, I would say, influenced. And then it's also ecological disaster. And so we have Nora, who is a paleontologist, who gets called by the Norwegian government to come because they find these giant, their footprints, but no one wants to say their footprints in the ground, leaving
Ain't that
the Dover
just a
tunnel.
fucking way? Those aren't footprints. Is obviously a giant fucking footprint.
She gets brought into this like big military room. The prime minister's there, the general is there, and everything, and they're showing this big footprint. She's like looking at it, and then looking back at people, and then looking at it, and going, "Is this a joke?" And they're like, "No. What do you think that is?" She's like, "Do you not see a footprint there?" And so what they end up doing is we end up following these different characters as they are trying to figure out what is going on while this troll is causing havoc on its way to Oslo for some unknown reason that is explored through the film. And it has a propulsive beat to it. It has like that kind of, you know, Hollywood like disaster film. You know how like they're constantly cutting between different characters in different regions, and there's words on the screen that be like Dover or, you know, Oslo or the Prime Minister's residence or something like that. Like it has that kind of feel to it, and it's a lot of fun. It takes the idea of like a disaster film and makes it about fantasy and folklore, and it incorporates some of the traditional folkloric tales about trolls in terms of like, is this troll allergic to light? Do they not like bells? Do they like the smell of Christian blood? Like, are they attracted to eating Christians? And so there's like all of this kind of stuff that the movie explores, and it's a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. I've been super stoked for this because like I love Troll Hunter, and we don't have enough big troll movies, and I'm very excited for this one. And especially because the guy did The Wave,
it's really
so
good.
That's super cool. I like the idea of a disaster movie with a troll. That is very exciting to me to watch.
And somehow, even though like this is probably a relatively low budget film in terms of like, I mean, when I say low budget, I don't mean that like this is like a $1 million film. Like this film probably has a lot of money in it, but when you compare it to a big Hollywood type of disaster film, it's probably a minuscule budget. But I will say that the CG in this movie, particularly with the troll, is so fucking good.
Oh fuck yeah. Okay.
It looks so much better than a lot of blockbusters being released in Hollywood. Like, he fits in the screen. He fits on it, and he looks like he's part of it, not like he's standing in front of a green screen or the actors are standing in front of it. It looks great. I love this movie.
Fuck
It's a lot of fun. December 1st, it will be on Netflix.
Oh fuck yeah. Okay, cool. Ooh, that's so exciting.
Yeah. Okay. Now apparently we're gonna get spicy, which I was not prepared for. So, Mary Beth, what are we watching, and what was your impression of this film? I have to ask.
Okay, so we watched Tragedy Girls from 2017, a movie that I've been very excited to watch, and I watched it, and I didn't dislike it. I didn't dislike it.
Okay.
But I did not think it was as smart as I think it is, as I think it thinks it is.
Okay.
I
will counter that,
I know,
but I'm curious.
I'm curious to hear your points about it too, because I liked a lot about it. I think it's
okay.
I wish there were more about the characters. I feel like these two girls are a little surface level doesn't feel right. There's something that I want more from these two characters. Okay. I so much wanted them to be like straight queer. Like fuck the boyfriend. I just wanted them to be so, because I love that. Like there's that queer tension going on here that I know that a lot of people have talked about, and that is one of my favorite parts here, where it's like it doesn't feel like just friendship jealousy that you see in other like more like teen comedies and things like that. It has this more fascinating tension underneath the surface that I was really, really liked and wanted more of. I think for 2017, I'm trying to remember that it's 2017, not 2022, and a lot has changed in 5 years. Like, as much as we like to think it's not a long period of time, like like how we interact on social media is so different, and it feels like it's trying too hard sometimes, which I know feels weird, because I do love two girls who are very smart that no one suspects being murderers. Like, that's fucking rad as shit, and like they're manipulating the system in a fucked up way, and they're not like characters they're not good guys, and I love that. I love good teenage like female anti-heroes who you love, but they're also despicable. Like, I do love that. Okay. But there's just something about this movie that like it wasn't enough, and I'm still trying to figure out why that is, but it just like I liked what it was doing. I enjoyed watching it, but I just think it was a little bit too surface level than what I was expecting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that. 100% get that.
Which I'm bummed about, because I was really excited, and like I knew I was like this checks off all of my fucking catnip boxes of things to watch. So I'm not really sure. I'm still trying to like totally articulate why it didn't resonate with me as much as it could have. But I want to hear about you, and because this is you love this movie,
I
and
do
I
love
want to
this
hear,
movie. I love this movie very
yeah,
much.
and I want to hear more than you about
It's
it.
so I think if you think of this movie as a romantic comedy, you have two girls that are obviously in love with each other, whether they realize it or
Yeah.
not. You have the male characters that are introduced to them. One is the goody goody boy next door best
Mm-hmm.
friend. The other one is a bad boy. This is complete tropes in a romantic comedy. Once they start to get introduced to that and start to embrace that heteronormativity because they've been together for so long, they start getting jealous of each other. Once one person starts to like, you know, focus more on Toby, who's played hilariously by Josh
Mm.
Hutchinson.
If I had to
uh
be murdered, at least it was by you.
at least it was you. Once they start to like go in those different directions, they get jealous of each other, and what's the first thing that comes to mind? We got to kill them. Why? Because we are discovering things about ourselves that we are in love. The music in the movie also plays into this. There is a montage towards the end once they've had their, because girl meets girl, girl loses girl, girl gets girl back, and so girl loses girl in a misunderstanding, and they each go with their respective guys. One, Alexander Shipp's character, who I love, I think she's fantastic in this, ends up with the murderer serial killer, and Brianna Sadie ends up with the boy next door, played by Jack Quaid. And there's the song that's playing, and it's like, um, I know she broke your heart. Like, there's all this kind of stuff, and it is totally a sappy breakup song about losing your a girlfriend. And then what do they do by the end of the movie? They're back together. They say fuck you to heteronormativity, and they burn prom, which is like the symbol of heteronormativity in a bunch of romantic comedies. They kill the goody two shoe boyfriend and the other boyfriend. They say no, fuck the world. We are queer. We're gonna go live our happy little murderous lives together. And I think that it's smart because when you have been raised on like the 80s movies where queerness is the villain and it comes in and threatens heteronormativity, and then the heteronormativity has to eventually destroy it and win to succeed it. I'm thinking Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I'm thinking Fright
Mm-hmm.
Night, I'm thinking Lost
Yeah.
Boys, Near Dark, like a whole host of those movies where queerness is a subtext. This, it's like the opposite. Yes, they are using the concept and subtext of a queer villain, but by the end of the movie, they are saying fuck you to heteronormativity. Heteronormativity does not win. They end up going off on their own little life. And that's why I think this movie is smarter than it gets credit for.
See, like I guess I get that. I just wish it was more in the forefront. You know what I mean? Like I think I'm just
Mm-hmm.
frustrated in 2022 watching this and being like, just make them queer. And like
Yeah,
I also, and I
I
think
agree.
I also was focusing a lot on the social media aspect too. Like I wasn't necessarily looking at this as a rom. See, your perspective of watching it as a rom com is like that makes so much sense. And I do think that what it's doing with its ending is really smart. Like I do love that
Mm-hmm.
trajectory. I think that they were trying to make something about social media that doesn't
Oh,
hit.
they were.
I
Mm-hmm.
get like this whole like social media makes you a murderer, sociopath, whatever the fuck. I think that part to me was not done as well, and that was what was kind of more my focus in watching this, and kind of what drew my attention more in terms of trying to parse it. Because of the queerness, I was like, oh yeah, these two girls are fucking in love with each other. But
Yeah.
I think what they were trying to do was make it, okay, this is my perspective. It felt like they were trying to make a queer movie without making it queer, but then put the social media on top of it to make it seem more alluring, marketing wise,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And again, this is all pure like projection on my part.
Oh, it's pure projection on my
Yeah.
part
Oh
too.
yeah.
Because I remember like Tara Ainsley, who now runs or owns Fangoria. She's a producer on this, and when I first posted, because I have an article, and we can maybe link it in the show
Yeah.
notes. I have an article where I kind of dig further into it. But like when I posted that article, she had DM'd me, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't think the queerness was intentional. Like it definitely had like this kind of. I don't think that's what the writers intended. So but like as a queer person,
But like, how can you
that's what
not
we have
see
to
that
do.
though in this movie? Like, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, it doesn't even feel like a reach at
Yeah.
all. Like I think we've had bigger reaches in the
Hmm.
history of this show with queerness, but like how could you? Look, I know that people get annoyed when it's like, but girls can be friends too. But like, come on now, are you kidding me? Two girls who murder and they don't want them to have boyfriends. Like, I don't.
Well, in the conversation too, where
Yeah,
like once they've broken up, and Michaela goes to Sadie and she's like, "We need to talk," and Sadie's like, "Not now. We're at school." And she's like, "Who cares?" And she's like, "Lower your voice. They're watching me." And that right there speaks to like a nugget of experience that I think a lot of closeted queer people, particularly around my age. I don't know if I can't speak to anyone else, but like around my age, that was an experience that I ran into where there was a guy I thought we might have something more, and I thought maybe this person would be someone that like I would be interested in. Maybe they'd be interested in me. And then there was a day where like they just stopped talking to me immediately, and it was like this. It just felt this moment felt very like full of that kind of
yeah,
intention where it's like yes they're talking about a murder and that's not what, and she obviously doesn't want to talk about it because they've killed people, right? So like it makes sense like on a narrative level, but like stripping away that text and looking at what is the deeper meaning behind it, it rang true of like a lot of closeted people that one person maybe gets popular or one person falls in with a different crowd and is like, oh, I don't want to talk with you because I don't want people to think that I'm queer
yeah,
too.
yeah. Interesting.
But
I always do also think it's interesting when like men write movies like this.
yeah,
And again, I'm not saying that men can't write movies about women and young women. It always just, it does make a little bit of like a, ooh, in my head. A little bit of a, oh,
hmm
ooh, mm. I think that I think it's handled pretty well here. I think that these are
yeah,
pretty well fleshed out characters with their family backgrounds, and I wanted so much more, but I also think that's because I liked what they were doing with the characters, and I just wanted more about these characters because both how they're
that
written
makes
and their
sense.
performances are so interesting.
Alexander Shipp is just, I
I
love her.
know.
She is so funny
I
in this.
know.
I think she's hilarious.
Yeah, so I think this movie I have to noodle on a little bit more. I liked it overall, but there's just something about it that didn't like strike me as much as I think it struck you.
Yeah, I get
But I'm
that.
glad I saw it, and I think
100%.
it is an interesting kind of. I mean, goddamn, fucking Carrie shit with them chaining everyone in and burning down the prom. Iconic, iconic. I love it, and I look
Iconic.
regardless of if they think it's queer or not. That's some like girls coming together and beating like assumptions about internalized misogyny, and also it's a white girl and a black girl. Like we also don't ever see that kind of thing, and they don't. And I know like that's not really like race is not a conversation in this movie, which I think is actually pretty forward thinking for a 2017 movie.
Hmm.
But it's still like important to note like a black character or a black actor was put into this role and it was just like, yeah, see, look, you can do these things and it doesn't affect the quality of a movie. Like actually she's one of the best parts of the fucking movie. So it's just it
Yeah.
is again really amazing to see that and have like what the story is and the actors who portray it. Like it's really awesome. So regardless of why it's not like a 5-star situation, I'm still like really impressed by it. See, I
I will
wasn't gonna come
say,
in here guns blazing and be like, "This fucking sucks." Like that would have been terrible. I would have given you a little bit
I
more
know
of
it
a
was just it was the tone right before we hit record. We were like, I was like, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on Tragic Girls. So like, yeah,
because I wasn't like that positive. I know it's like I'm just not as excited about this one as Terry is. I feel bad, but it's just my truth.
and you know, we don't have to like everything. Obviously, like there's so many movies where I'm the one that's like, yeah, Exorcist, The Shining, Martyrs, like it
It's my turn to
happens, man.
be my turn to be the.
I will say that one of yes, I do think that they were trying to make a movie about social media. However, I will also say that I do think we both know at least a couple people who have turned their social media presence into personal tragedy, and like that is all that they have, and they kind of benefit off of that. So I would say that in some situations, some of the critique felt a little bit on the nose.
Yeah, and
But
that's the thing. It's like I think that they were trying to do a lot that didn't get like fully realized in my head. But I think they were on.
It's a millennial movie that has
Yeah.
young kid people. That is at a time of Gen Z,
Yeah, and so
right?
it's. I would love to see. I want to see a sequel. I would love to see a sequel of these two women. I'm going to call them women. Two women going to college and like what their relationship evolves and looks like. I think that'd be
Me
so
too.
cool.
Make it textually queer.
Please
Would be nice.
let them eat each other's pussies. Anyway,
Yes.
or I mean, like whatever.
Let's.
Anyway, that's my contribution to society on this beautiful day. So we have this. This marks the end of our horror comedy series. We have gone chronologically through a lot of different horror comedies. Wow, we have gone, but it's been really cool to like see how it's changed and see what stayed the same, and also watch what horror comedies have really shaped horror in general. So this has been quite a journey.
It has, and I meant to bring this up before we started recording, but I'm going to put you on the spot now. Since we're done with this series, what would you say is like your favorite that we've seen, or the one that like immediately jumps out? I can say mine while you're
Yeah,
thinking.
you go first.
My favorite is actually the old dark. Is it the old dark house
Yes, sorry.
from
I
1932?
was like,
Yeah,
the old.
James Whales's The Old Dark House was probably my favorite horror comedy that we've seen that I had not seen before. I should also say, I thought that movie was absolutely gorgeous. Was both creating and lampooning the sort of like strangers in a house subgenre of horror, and I thought it was wicked. I really enjoyed that. That one surprised me more than I expected it to, for me personally.
You know, the two that popped into my head are not necessarily ones that were like good, but it was the oh fucking shit, what is it called? It was the Spanish horror comedy that we watched.
Oh yeah.
Not the Old Dark House. I'm sorry. I'm just looking on my phone.
It was the Road of Ghosts, but wasn't that what it was called? But I don't remember what the
Spectre's
I
Road.
can't think of what it was called. Yes.
The Spectre's Road. And I think it's I think just because it was a horror comedy from not America, and I think it was just really cool to see that, and like what comedy looks like, and like an early horror comedy looks like, not in the US. So I think that, and the skeleton imagery fucking cracked me the fuck up. Like it's like the one of the images that pops into my head whenever, like as soon as you talked about horror comedy, like I think of that image because it's just like so goofy, but I love it. And then the other one that actually popped into my head was the one with Dan Aykroyd.
Oh my god. It was nothing but trouble.
Like it's so problematic and not good, but it's so ridiculous. It's so crazy. It's so wild, and no one talks about it. That like it just stuck in my brain as like this weird fucking thing that shouldn't exist, but it does. And it's that one because I think it's the whole context around it too, and just what it is. I kind of loved it for all of its problems. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I get that. It's a movie that you cannot believe has been made. Like you just cannot. Also, the movie Purpurina Stitch is in our chat and said El Camino de los Espantos was that movie.
Yes. El Camino de los Espantos.
Which was a movie recommendation from
El.
Purpurina
So
Stitch.
that was those two were the ones that like really stuck out to me. But the Old Dark House also did, because we talked about queer. We talked about queerness in that with James Whale and
Pre-Hays Code
It's
movie.
just that one is absolutely incredible as well. So those are the ones.
Hell yeah.
It was very wild.
I mean, and there's others that like
yeah.
I've seen before that I love. Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, classic. Slither, classic. Night of the Creeps,
Yeah,
classic.
I guess, and the ones I picked were the ones I had never heard of either. Either I hadn't seen,
Right.
like the other ones
Mm-hmm.
I knew about or had like seen or seen parts of before, but those two were like surprises. The movies that I'd never even heard of and never probably would have experienced without this series. And I love that we get the
Yeah.
opportunity to push ourselves to watch these kinds of movies, even if we don't love them. It's just we get to appreciate them and like what horror history looks like and things like that. So it's just really cool to get to watch those movies.
Not everything can be the Boneyard.
Just the poodle is not as in it as much as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. That really is unfortunate.
But you know, we can't have it all.
We can't have it all. So we, as you said, we are done with our horror comedy series. What adventure are we going to embark on next, Mary Beth?
Okay, so like ratting on myself, I have only seen Child's Play, and I have not seen any other Chucky movies. So what we are going to do for starting the holiday season and obviously going past it is we are going to start watching the Chucky series. We have already talked about Child's Play, the first one, on the podcast, so we're going to start with Child's Play 2. So if you want to go back and listen to our Child's Play 1 episode, it's pretty early on. You can go find that. It's a more in-depth discussion with a guest. And then, but we're starting with Child's Play 2 and then watching all of them for my benefit and my education.
And my benefit.
Your
love
benefit.
them.
I'm very excited. I am
love
very excited.
them.
It's so funny. We always talk about this at my my favorite record store. Literally had the fucking Blu-ray 7 movie collection of Chucky. So
I think I have that exact one somewhere.
yeah, and I'm super stoked. Really, you know what I'm most excited for? Jennifer Tilly. So I just can't wait.
Once we get to Bride of
I
Chucky.
can't fucking wait. So I'm very excited for this series, so I can finally heal up some spots that are empty in my horror knowledge.
Hell yeah.
But then, who are we talking to on Monday?
We are talking with podcaster and YouTuber Bobby Torres. He's the host of the Bobby Likes It Spooky YouTube series. He's also a co-host on a couple podcasts. And he brought with him, whoo boy, the 1990 miniseries It. Yeah. So
read my
we got to
Letterboxd
sit
review
through-
of It, and that'll give you a preview of my journey with that movie.
I'm gonna have to go check that out too.
It's done.
We yeah,
It's so stupid, but
that's the best
that's all I
Letterboxd
do in
reviews
Letterboxd.
I know.
Anyway.
But yeah, so we talk about that. We talk about the book because the book is Terry's favorite novel. Read it 6 times
So
or so.
wild that you read that
probably.
book so many times. I respect it
second
and love it.
biggest
It's just
book.
wild that you've read that fucking ginormous tome so many times.
Mm-hmm. It's huge. So yeah, we talk about that. We talk about the miniseries. We talk about the new movies that came out. We sort of just dissect it as a whole.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear everyone's
it was.
opinions.
Bobby's great. I love
I know.
him.
Oh, we all have a lot of opinions. Shocking.
We sure do.
Anyway, so listeners, you have heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Did you watch one of the movies or shows that we talked about on the podcast and had thoughts? Do you have suggestions for things we should be covering? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MBMcAndrews.
And I'm a Gaily Dreadful.
Sorry, I was burping. And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And if you've stuck along this long in our wrap up.
Wrap
You're not
out!
wrapping out. Oh my god. You do not want to see me do some raps. Although I will say that I can do Handlebars really well. The Flowbot song. That was my go-to karaoke jam. for a
Fuck
while.
yeah.
Anyway.
Wow! I'm going to file that one back into my Terry knowledge part of my brain.
But we are not rapping in in December. However, for those that are still listening to us,
If y'all get 100
If we
reviews, Terry has to do handlebars. Yes, you have to. Rap.
yes, okay, yes. If we get 100 more reviews, I I will rap Handlebars. I will debase myself for our followers and rap that song.
That's marketing, baby.
I will do that. Absolutely. So 100 reviews, not 100 total reviews, 100 reviews from now. I will do that. Get cracking. But Patreon. If you are a Patreon subscriber, we got a lot coming for you. On the first, you're going to get a seltzer for life. And boy, was it a choice.
We had a bad time.
It was a choice
0 for 2.
for both
0
of
for
us.
2. As a Smith preview.
On the 7th, you're going to have a fucking 2-hour discussion of Soft and Quiet.
Did we mean to talk for 2 hours?
Did not expect it to go that long.
No. Is it a good conversation? Yes. We didn't have we had
So
a
you're
plan.
gonna
We just didn't have that long of a plan. But it's great. It's a great
Exactly.
episode.
It really is. So yeah, you'll have 2 hours of that coming for the Fresh Wound subscribers. And also we're just doing a bonus episode because we love you. So Fresh Wound subscribers, on the following Wednesday, what is that, the 14th, we're also releasing a mini-sode spoiler cast of Barbarian. So got a lot coming your way.
So much content for you. Tell your friends about the content and have them subscribe.
My camera's decided to not focus on me.
Cool.
That got worse. There we go.
But yeah, we've got so much cool stuff coming up. So please, if you're not a Freshman supporter, give us a try. Maybe. If you are a Freshman supporter, help share. It would be really helpful to get more people subscribed to the Patreon. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there. Hope you had a lovely Thanksgiving, and most importantly, stay creepy.
And as EL says, 100% worth the sub as a Freshman supporter. Thank you. And with that, until next time.